I treated my parents to a fancy meal, spending 2,000 bucks. But when the bill came, the waiter handed me a check for 62,000. Some guy put his son's $60,000 graduation banquet on your tab. He even left a note. Said your uncle already gave the green light. Looking at that pathetic, full of holes note, I dialed 911 right then and there. Hello? I'm being scammed at a restaurant. The amount is 60,000. My voice wasn't loud, but in this fancy upscale restaurant that prides itself on being quiet and elegant, it rang out like a thunderclap. That last part, the 60,000, made the surrounding diners freeze with their chopsticks mid-air. My parents were still in shock, looking completely lost. Xiaofeng, are you sure there isn't some mistake? Hang up the phone first. Let's try to get it sorted out properly. Yeah. Why call the police over something like this? What if it really is just some distant relative playing a prank because they've had too much to drink? I didn't hang up. I gave the operator the restaurant's address. Yes, I am here right now. I'm ready to cooperate with the investigation at any time. Once the call ended, the whole lobby fell into an eerie, tense silence. In less than a minute, a man with a beer belly and a sharp suit marched quickly toward us. Now, sir. Let's talk this out. Why go as far as calling the police? It's probably just a misunderstanding. Doesn't the note say it's your uncle? Maybe he's just pulling a prank on you. Trying to give you a little surprise, right? He spoke as if it were nothing, as if 60,000 bucks were just some harmless little joke. My parents, however, were completely intimidated by his smooth talk and manager-like authority. Yes. Manager Zhao is right. Let's double check. Maybe it really is just some unreliable relative, but we don't even have a relative named Gang. In that split second, a surge of uncontrollable rage flared up inside me. Seeing how my parents' kindness left them so helpless in a situation like this, it was exactly the kind of mess that scammers and unscrupulous businesses prey on. I took a deep breath. Manager Zhao. First, let me repeat myself. Neither I, nor anyone in my family, has any relative we would ever call Uncle Gang. Second, a massive bill of $60,000, with no itemized receipt, no signature from anyone in my family, no phone verification, and absolutely no authorization for such a charge, yet your restaurant just took a suspicious mystery note and dared to put it straight onto my tab. Is this really how you treat your customers? Well, we saw that gentleman talking with your family like he was an old friend, and he swore up and down that he had your permission, so I cut him off right there, showing no mercy. Like an old friend? Swore up and down? Is this the level of risk management you have for a high-end restaurant? I looked around the room, then pointed up at the ceiling, at the gorgeous crystal chandelier and the expensive paintings on the walls. Your place is decked out in hundreds of thousands, maybe millions, of dollars in gold and glitter, yet your core management practices are worse than that spicy street food stall at the end of the alley. Even the lady there asks before she charges you for an extra egg. They're right, you know. That's $60,000. They just slapped it on the bill like it was nothing? This place is a disaster zone of mismanagement. Who'd ever dare to eat here again? What if they decide to pin it on me next time? It's honestly terrifying when you think about it. Manager Zhao's face turned sour, losing all composure. Sir, quit your nonsense and stop causing a scene. You are seriously interfering with our business here. Look, I'm telling you, this bill has been checked and it's perfectly fine. If you don't settle this bill today, we have every right to keep you here. You aren't going anywhere. A threat. A blatant, naked threat. But instead of being scared, I actually started laughing. I pulled out my phone, aimed it right at his face, all twisted with rage, and hit record. Why don't you say that one more time? Right here in front of my camera, and in front of all these guests. Go ahead, say it nice and clear. Before they get here, you're telling me this restaurant is going to hold me against my will? The arrogance just drained right out of Manager Zhao. He opened his mouth a few times, but he couldn't get a single word out. 10 minutes later, red and blue police lights were flashing like crazy outside the entrance. 2 officers pushed the door open and walked in. The senior officer leading the way looked stern. The younger one beside him immediately held up his body-worn camera. As soon as the police appeared, the suffocating tension in the lobby vanished in an instant. Every single eye in the room snapped toward the door. Manager Zhao, who was just acting so high and mighty, did a complete turnaround. He looked absolutely miserable, instantly shifting into a desperate groveling mode. He scurried over, rushing to greet them, bowing so low his back was practically parallel to the floor. Hey there, officer. Thanks for your hard work. Sorry to drag you out here in this heat. It's nothing really, just a tiny misunderstanding, just a little personal matter. He was shoving his chubby body forward for all he was worth, trying to block the officer's line of sight, trying to drag them off to the side. But Officer Wang, the man in charge, has seen it all before. He kept a stony face, sidestepped him without a word, and with a sharp, piercing gaze, walked straight toward me. Hey there! So you're the one who called the police? It was me, right in front of the officers. I laid out exactly what happened from start to finish. No drama, no playing the victim. I just stated the facts, like giving a work report. Strictly sticking to the truth. That's how it went down. This is the bill for $62,000. And this is the note that fake uncle left behind. I handed over the bill along with that pathetic scrap of paper. Just shoved it right into his hand. Officer Wang took it, and the younger cop immediately shoved his body cam right in my face, snapping photos of the evidence. I pointed right at the note, and I tore their story apart. Look, first off, there's just a scribble of the character Gang on this paper. No full name. No phone number. Does a real relative trying to treat someone to a meal act like a shady thief? Second, the note just says, I agreed to it. Where's the proof? No recordings? No screenshots? Nothing. The hotel expects me to foot a $60,000 bill, based on just this one line? Who do they think they're kidding? Officer Wang's expression darkened as he listened. He gave a sharp nod. Then he locked eyes on Manager Zhao, who was standing there pale as a ghost. The points this customer raised, how do you explain them? A $60,000 tab, and you didn't even bother making a single phone call? Didn't you think to double check with Mr. Lin in person? Manager Zhao was sweating bullets. Cold sweat was literally dripping down his greasy, bloated face. Officer, he sounded so sincere, and the two of them looked like they knew each other well. So we just let our guard down. His voice trailed off, getting quieter with every word. Even he knew that pathetic excuse was absolute garbage. Just as things were at a total standstill, suddenly, the tables turned. The front desk girl, who was just terrified out of her wits, came stumbling over, holding a cordless landline phone. She looked like she was carrying a ticking time bomb. Manager Zhao, there's a call for Mr. Lin. As soon as she said the word uncle, the whole room went dead silent. Led by the two police officers, everyone stared fixatedly at that phone. I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. They say there's a path to heaven, but you choose not to take it. And there's no gate to hell, yet you go barging right in. With the cops already serving them up on a platter, this con artist actually had the nerve to show up and hand himself over? He's definitely a fraud. One so deep in his own lies he's hallucinating. Does he really think he can just run his mouth and turn black into white? A flash of sharp intent crossed Officer Wang's eyes, and without making a sound, he shot a look. Record it. The young officer caught on instantly, and set up the equipment right away. Officer Wang signaled me to go ahead. I grabbed the phone from the trembling receptionist, and right in front of everyone, I hit the speaker button. From the other end of the line, a voice came through oily and fake friendly, echoing through the lobby. Hello? Is that you, Xiaofeng? It's your Uncle Lu Gang. That tone was so familiar it made me want to gag. He was playing it like a long-lost father reuniting with his own flesh and blood. My mom stood behind me, shaking her head in confusion. She didn't know him. My dad, standing nearby, looked completely on guard, his brows drawn together, nodded in a tight frown. He gripped the phone, his voice cold as ice. I don't know you. On the other end, he let out a hasty, awkward laugh to cover it up. Oh, come on. You really are a forgetful one, aren't you? Such a short memory. How could you not recognize your uncle? I even held you when you were just a little kid. Back at that small park right downstairs from your place? I could tell his smooth-talking act was well rehearsed. Just a bunch of generic, one-size-fits-all lines. Not once did he dare to mention a specific place. But I wasn't buying any of it. I just stood there, watching him coldly, listening as he kept on acting like a clown. He still thought he had me hooked. He started putting on airs like an elder. Xiaofeng, my boy, taking your mom and dad out to eat today, celebrate their anniversary? Such a big, wonderful occasion. When your uncle heard about it, I was just so happy for you. Then I thought, my son is having his celebration feast for getting into school today too, so why not double the joy? Double the joy for everyone. We should all just get together and make it a party. We're all family here. No need to draw lines. The first wave of emotional manipulation hit, trying to guilt trip me by saying we're all one family. Don't treat us like strangers. Look at you now, out there running such big business, making big money. Surely you can afford to cover your uncle's meal. Listen to your uncle. Don't forget your roots. Your mom and dad are both right here today. You're making such a scene in front of everyone, calling the police and all that nonsense. Doesn't that just make your parents look bad? You're making them lose face in front of all their relatives. Every word was aimed right at the weak spots of a decent, honest person, using the pressure of saving face to his advantage, weaponizing family ties. He was trying to get me completely under his thumb. Hearing this, my dad couldn't hold his temper back for another second. He snatched the microphone right out of his hand. Who are you exactly? I'm warning you, stop spewing nonsense in here. You're dragging my son's name through the mud. We don't have anyone like you in this family. Dad lost it on the spot. Seeing him jump to my defense, my adrenaline hit an all-time high. I grabbed the phone back. Time to turn the tables. Mr. Lu, is it? Since you claim to be my uncle, and part of my family, then this should be easy. Yuqian's voice turned ice cold. She went straight for the jugular. She paused for a second on purpose, keeping everyone on the edge of their seats. Why don't you say the names of my grandparents right now in front of these officers? My mother's parents will do too. If you can get just one right, then this $60,000, I'll pay it without a single word of complaint. The voice that was just running its mouth went deathly silent. The call was thick with an incredibly awkward tension. You couldn't even hear a breath on the other end. Manager Zhao's face turned a sickly shade of green. It was like he just swallowed a live fly. After holding back for a few seconds, the scammer totally lost his cool. His disguise shattered right then and there. His tone broke completely, revealing his true colors as a deadbeat. You little punk! What the hell? Is that any way to talk to your elder? Read a few books and suddenly, you think you're somebody? Let me tell you something. Don't push your luck, you ungrateful brat. You're paying that money today, whether you like it or not, and that's final. Otherwise, you're gonna regret it. He went from a caring uncle to a thug in a split second, spitting out threats. So, you're getting desperate now, huh? Pushed you over the edge, have I? I let out a cold, mocking laugh. Every cent I have, I earned myself. Nobody just handed it to me. So which private room were you spending money in? Stop hiding behind your phone. The officer here would love to discuss your family matters face to face. Why don't you try barking like a mad dog to my face? Spewing nothing but trash, just to mask your own pathetic, impotent rage. Then, with a loud snap, they scrambled away, running for their lives. The call cut off. The lobby went deathly silent. Everyone watching finally saw what was really going on. Their eyes were filled with nothing but contempt. I put the phone down. My gaze locked onto the paralyzed Manager Zhao. Officer Wang's eyes were sharp as blades. His voice was chillingly cold. Manager Chao, do you still think this is just a family matter? Manager Zhao's legs gave out from under him. He nearly hit the floor. He knew exactly how much trouble he was in. He'd messed up big time. The sky was practically falling. The way the officer was looking at him, he might as well have been skinned alive. Go, get the footage from the lobby front desk right now, and pull all the public surveillance tapes too. He was radiating pure authority now. Total, overwhelming presence. He didn't leave an inch of room for negotiation. The manager was scared out of his wits. He scrambled away, rushing off, straight toward the security room. His arrogant attitude had been crushed into dust. He turned back around. His tone softened, but only slightly. Mr. Lin, would you mind trying to remember? From the moment you arrived until you sat down, did you notice anyone suspicious? I immediately started replaying everything in my mind. It's just professional habit kicking in. I've always had this instinct to scan everyone around me, top to bottom. I walked in and headed straight for the window seat. That old guy at the next table was acting incredibly strange. He looked to be in his 50s. He was wearing this baggy jacket. You could just feel how nervous and on edge he was. He had such a shifty, suspicious look in his eyes. He kept glancing over at us constantly. Even while he was talking, he kept angling his body toward us, just straining his ears to eavesdrop on our conversation. Back then, I just thought he was being nosy. I didn't really pay it any mind. But looking back now, he must have been the con artist. Officer Wang nodded. Do you remember what he looked like? He had a square jaw and dark tan skin. He was balding a bit on top, and when he smiled, there were so many wrinkles around his eyes. He honestly looked like such an innocent, harmless guy. It's exactly that kind of guy. That kind of face that looks completely non-threatening. That's usually the type who pulls off the most deadly scams. No sooner had he finished speaking, Manager Zhao came sprinting back with his technician, clutching their laptops like their lives depended on it. His attitude had completely crumbled. He was sweating bullets, trying everything he could to look useful. Officer, I got it. We pulled the footage. Everything you need is right here. That graduation banquet they spent $60,000 on. There's got to be a registration record for that, right? Who was the person that booked it? And what was the phone number? The manager slapped his own forehead and scrambled back to the front desk like a madman to flip through the logs. He came running back a second later, gripping the register. His fingers were shaking uncontrollably. He pointed at a page and shouted, "Found it! Right here. The room was booked for the Peony Hall in the VIP area upstairs, under the name Liu Xiaohui. What's the number for Liu? It's the exact same number that just called us. That's it. Liu Xiaohui. The lead is solid now. The case is closed. The trap is set. The scammer didn't even run. He's still hiding right here in this building. Call for backup. We're locking down the Peony Hall. Get everyone here under control." The police nearby wasted no time, acting with lightning speed. They immediately grabbed their radios to call for backup and seal off the scene. Just then, right at that moment, the security footage finally came up, and man, it was all caught on camera crystal clear. We had just sat down. That middle-aged guy in the dark jacket, Lu Gang, stood right up. He started pacing back and forth at the next table, pretending to be on a call. That guy had his ears perked up the whole time, desperately trying to get as close to our table as he could. On the screen, I was pulling out the anniversary gift I'd gotten for my mom, a sparkling pearl necklace. I put it on her myself. Both my parents were beaming, grinning from ear to ear. It was such a sweet, happy family moment, but that guy, Lu Gang, was just a few steps away, staring right at that necklace, his eyes practically glowing with greed. You could tell he was already cooking up some scheme in that head of his. Watching this, I felt a chill run straight down my spine. It turns out, from the very second we walked through that door, we had been targeted by this old fox. And then, things got even more infuriating. After we finished eating and stood up to leave, we ran smack into Lu Gang just as he was heading for the front desk. On the footage, he suddenly went wild, acting like he'd had a massive energy boost. He started bowing and scraping toward my parents like crazy, muttering something under his breath, acting like he was congratulating them. My parents just thought he was some drunk guy from another table, who had mistaken them for someone else. So, just to be polite, they gave him a little nod back. Who would have thought? Seriously, who would have thought that one polite nod would become his hard evidence that he was close with our family? Seeing that part, my mom was so angry she was trembling all over. God, it's terrifying to think about. How could someone be this wicked? The rest of the footage just shoved the cold, hard proof right in our faces. Lu Gang walked up to the front desk. He whipped out that crumpled slip of paper he'd prepped and slapped it onto the counter for the young clerk. While he was running his mouth with a load of nonsense, he pointed toward us as we were walking away. The acting was just incredible, so convincing. The clerk got completely played by his smooth talk and actually ended up taking the note. It was a textbook con job. The whole scheme was caught in crystal clear detail by the security cameras. The truth was completely laid bare. Manager Zhao stared at the computer screen, his face as pale and ashen as if he'd been rubbed with soot. He knew damn well there was no way the restaurant could ever wash its hands of this mess. He turned his head, his voice trembling like he was begging for scraps. "Mr. Lin, I'm so sorry. This is an absolutely major oversight on our part. We were blind. It's a failure of management. Look, it's a bit too late for apologies now. I want this handled strictly by the book. Just as the words left my mouth, several backup officers stormed into the lobby. Officer Wang gave a sharp wave of his hand, his eyes fierce and focused, and led his team straight toward the elevators. Their target, the Peony Pavilion room upstairs. This entire calculated, multi-layered trap was about to reach its disastrous, spectacular grand finale. The two heavy mahogany doors at the entrance of the Peony Pavilion were shut tight. The soundproofing was top-notch. Outside the door, the police were closing in, full of intensity, the tension reaching a breaking point. Inside, the family of scammers were still clinking glasses, partying away without a care in the world. Officer Wang didn't even bother knocking. He just jerked his chin at his team. Two officers, one on each side, slammed the doors open with everything they had. With a deafening boom, the heavy doors crashed against the walls, echoing down the entire hallway. The noisy, drunken toasts inside were cut off in an instant. Everyone was completely stunned by the sudden scene. More than 20 people were crammed around a massive round table. At the head of the table sat a balding man in a dark jacket. He was holding up his wine glass. His face was beet red from drinking. Spitting everywhere as he talked, he was bragging and running his mouth like crazy. This scumbag was the exact same two-faced swindler we saw in the surveillance footage. When Lu Gang saw the police storming in, the wild grin on his face froze instantly. The wine glass hovering in midair stayed perfectly still. Sitting next to him was a boy with a naive, baby-faced look. That must be his son, Liu Xiaohui. He still had that proud look of a fresh high school graduate, but right now, he was absolutely terrified. Officer Wang's gaze was sharp as a knife, locking onto Lu Gang. His voice boomed through the entire room like a bell. Lu Gang, you're suspected of fraud. You're coming with us right now. As soon as those words hit, the whole place erupted in chaos. The booze-induced haze cleared from Lu Gang's head in an instant. He bolted upright, plastering on a fake smile that looked uglier than if he were crying. He waved his hands frantically. Hey, officers, there's been some huge mistake. You've definitely got it wrong. Fraud? What are you talking about? I was just playing a little prank on my own nephew. The kid just doesn't know any better. Why did he have to go and call the cops? Then he caught a glimpse of me, standing behind them with a face like stone. He switched gears in a split second, putting on the pathetic act of a pained elder relative. Xiaofeng, how could you be so immature and lose your head like this? Tell the officers the truth right now. Why are you causing such a scene between family? Today is your brother's celebration for getting into college. Pulling this stunt, do you have any idea how much shame you're bringing on your uncle? That old scoundrel's ability to turn things around and blame the victim was truly legendary. After the initial shock, all the aunts and relatives at the table immediately started chiming in to back him up. Yeah, really, it's such a trivial tiny thing. What kind of family is this? Holding on to grudges so tight? Kids these days, truly cold-blooded and heartless. Their elders offer them a way out, and they won't even take it. Look, kid, that's enough. Look at how worked up you've got your uncle. Don't go around making things difficult for your family. A whole group of them buzzing around like flies. Trying to use their numbers against me. Using social conventions to push me around. Trying to force their twisted version of the truth on me. My mom, always so soft-hearted. She started hesitating again. She gave my sleeve a quiet tug. Her eyes were full of pleading. She hated how ugly the scene was getting. She just wanted me to back down. Forget it. My dad saw right through it. He reached out and pressed down on my mom's hand. Without a word, he took a step forward, standing like a mountain, shielding me. Just that one move gave me a sudden boost of confidence. I pushed through the spray of insults from those senile old fools, parted the crowd, and got right in Lu Gang's face. I couldn't be bothered to waste breath on him. I didn't even give him a glance. Or that group of relatives. I just pulled out my phone, pulled up the fresh recording of the call, and hit play without a second thought. You little punk! What is going on? Is that any way to talk to your elders? Let me tell you something. Don't be ungrateful when I'm being nice to you. You're going to pay that money today, whether you want to or not. You have to pay up, or I'll make you regret it. Lu Gang's hysterical, owl-mouthed roaring blasted through the speakers for the whole room to hear. The room, which had been chaotic just a moment ago, suddenly went dead silent. The whole place froze in total silence. You could hear a pin drop in the room. The voices of the people who were egging him on were completely cut off. All his friends and family just stared, completely stunned. Every single one of them had a face more ridiculous than the last. I turned off the recording and lifted my head. My gaze locked on to Lu Gang like a sharp, piercing nail. You know, dear uncle, that wasn't exactly the attitude you were sporting on the phone earlier. My voice wasn't loud, but every single word hit like a heavy iron hammer, slamming down hard onto his skull. You couldn't even tell me the names of my own grandparents if your life depended on it. Lu Gang's old face instantly turned into a chaotic palette of colors. From the fake, puffy-faced arrogance of a liar, to the sickly pale look of someone being exposed in public, then to a pathetic, livid shade of humiliation, and finally, he just looked as gray and lifeless as a dirty rag. Beside him, his son Liu Xiaohui's face was turning bright red. He was so ashamed and furious, his entire worldview was falling apart. He violently hung his head, wishing he could just crawl into a hole in the ground. Officer Wang's cold voice crashed down, putting a definitive end to this whole farce. Still trying to make up stories, huh? Between the surveillance footage and the recording, the evidence is ironclad. Too tired to listen to any more of his nonsense, he signaled the officers behind him. With a wave of his hand, there was a sharp, crisp click. A pair of silver handcuffs was snapped tightly right in front of his entire family, onto that greasy hand he'd been using to brag just moments ago. Lu Gang went limp like a dog that had had its bones removed. Completely defeated, he was dragged out by the police. The graduation banquet, which was filled with such cocky energy just moments ago, instantly turned into a total disaster of social suicide. He had become the laughingstock of the entire room. Just as they were about to drag him out the door, a middle-aged woman burst into loud, wailing sobs. She chased after me and grabbed my arm with a death grip. "Young man, please, young man, I'm begging you, have a heart. Just let him off the hook this once." This had to be Lu Gang's wife, Lu Xiaohui's actual mother. Her face was a mess of snot and tears. Her hair was wild, looking just like a madwoman. Her eyes were filled with pure terror and desperation. "He just lost his mind for a second," she pleaded. "He was just confused. He's really not a bad person." She started rambling about how Lu Gang had turned rotten recently because of his gambling. He was buried in a mountain of loan shark debt. People were chasing him all over town. Holding this graduation banquet was just him trying to put on a show he couldn't afford, just to act like a big shot in front of the relatives. And then, find some poor sucker, some massive, clueless victim, to secretly stick with the astronomical bill. He did it all for his son, you know? What father doesn't want his boy to hold his head high? To head off to college looking successful and proud? He was really backed into a corner. That's why he came up with such a lousy idea. She was crying her heart out, sounding absolutely gutted. This whole script was the absolute peak of emotional blackmail. Every other word out of her mouth, using for the sake of the child like it was some kind of get-out-of-jail-free card. Like it could whitewash any pathetic crime. My mom, naturally soft-hearted as she is, hearing the woman wailing so miserably, and hearing that line, "for the sake of the child," her savior complex kicked in instantly. She started to open her mouth, already wanting to plead for the scammer. I saw right through it. I immediately grabbed my mom's shoulder, holding her down. I gave her a look to calm her down. Gotta keep her steady. I turned back and glared at the crazy woman who still hadn't let go. My voice was ice cold. The pressure. It was suffocating. She was really laying it on thick, that lady. Let me ask you one thing. Just because you want your son to save face, does that give you the right to go around swindling people out of their hard-earned money? You want your son to be a big shot? Sure. He wants to be a big shot. Does that mean my own parents, who just came here to celebrate an anniversary, are just easy targets for you to push around? Who's going to make up for the humiliation my parents went through? And our emotional distress? Who's going to pay for that? Every word cut like a blade, one after another. Each one hit right where it hurt. It tore her whole poor loving mother act to shreds. She was so stunned she couldn't even mutter a single word. The hand she had been clutching suddenly went limp, like a balloon losing all its air. It's just ridiculous. Who do you think you are? Why should your precious little prince be treated like gold, while other people's parents are just supposed to be treated like dirt? Just because your family is short on cash, that makes you right? And that makes it okay to suck other people's hard-earned money dry? Right at that moment, Lu Xiaohui, the college-bound kid who had been keeping his head down this whole time, stepped forward quietly. He didn't throw a tantrum or make a scene like his mother. Instead, he walked straight up to me. With his eyes turning red, he suddenly dropped and gave me a deep, 90-degree bow. "I'm sorry, big brother. I'm so sorry. This whole mess is my dad's fault. I'm sorry we dragged you into this. As for the money for this meal, even if I have to go out and break my back, selling scrap metal or whatever it takes, I will pay you back, I promise." In that boy's eyes, in his eyes, there was none of his father's shifty, crooked look, and none of his mother's shameless, thick-skinned attitude. There was only a crushing sense of shame, like he wanted to crawl into a hole in the ground, and a sense of responsibility he was trying his hardest to hold on to. Looking at this kid, who's nothing like his deadbeat dad, I honestly felt a whirlwind of complicated emotions. When you get down to it, he's just another victim of his own father's mess. It was supposed to be a day of celebration, but his dad just had to go and drag him through the mud. I stayed silent for a few seconds, just looking at him. This isn't on you, but your old man needs to face the consequences for the rotten things he's done. As for the money, I'm not paying a single cent. The way this place is managed is a total disaster, and now that they've stirred up this massive mess, they're going to have to take full responsibility and clean it up. As soon as I said that, the mother and son were stunned speechless. Manager Zhao even shivered in pure terror. Not wanting to deal with that sobbing pair anymore, I walked straight up to Manager Zhao. My folks stood tall and followed right behind me. I stared her down, looking at that face of hers, which looked even worse than someone at a funeral. My tone turned ice cold. It dropped to freezing instantly. Now that he's been hauled off to the station, Manager Cao, I think it's time we settle this $60,000 mess, along with the compensation for the emotional distress my family went through. Back in the lobby, the atmosphere was like night and day compared to before. The crowd had mostly cleared out, leaving only my family and the restaurant staff. Manager Cao, all that arrogant, snobby attitude was completely gone. She was trailing behind me like a lapdog, bowing and scraping. Mr. Lin, please, you've got to calm down. Everything that happened today, every single mistake, it's all on the restaurant. It's our terrible management and our blind staff that caused your parents to suffer such an injustice. How about this? We'll wipe the $2,000 off your bill today, free of charge. Consider it an apology. As for that $60,000 hole, don't you worry about a thing. Our restaurant will cover the whole mess. Absolutely not. We won't hold you responsible for a single cent. So, does that work for you? He looked at me with desperate, probing eyes, waiting for an answer, trying to pay me off with a free meal, cleaning up his own bad debt. This was likely his very last card to play. and the most sincerity he could possibly offer. If it were anyone else, just an average Joe, caught up in a mess like this, they might have just taken the deal and called it a day. After all, they wouldn't be losing any money, and they'd get a free meal out of it too. But I wasn't buying it. I picked up my teacup, slowly and deliberately blew the tea leaves away, without taking a single sip. Then, I slammed it back onto the table. It made a sharp cracking sound. I lifted my eyes to lock onto his, and gave a cold, blunt shake of my head. Manager Tsao, I think you've got this all wrong. Do you even know what the real issue is? First off, I pay for what I eat, that's just common sense. That $2,000 we spent? I'm paying every single cent. I'll settle the bill in full. I didn't come here to beg for freebies or take advantage of anyone. Second, that $60,000 debt has absolutely nothing to do with me. You were the ones blind enough to let a con artist walk in here. That's a mess you have to clean up yourselves. Using your own screw-up as a bargaining chip to buy my silence and make this all go away? Don't you think that's a joke? I threw those words at him like daggers. The fake smile on his face froze, permanently locked in place. I bet in all your years as a manager, you've never run into a stubborn prick like me, someone who doesn't play by your rules or cave into pressure. I leaned forward, locking my eyes onto his, and said, look, we aren't talking about that $60,000 anymore. We're talking about the compensation you owe me and my family. The fat guy's eyes nearly popped out of his head, as if he'd just heard me speaking alien. You heard me right, I said. Compensation. I broke it down for him, piece by piece, laying out the math so it was crystal clear. First, today is my parents' 30th wedding anniversary. Because of the scammers you let inside, the two of them were scared half to death. A perfectly good celebration turned into a damn action movie. For that emotional distress, you better believe you're paying up. Second, I was standing here in this lobby being pointed at and called unfilial, getting threatened over the phone by scammers, and even threatened by you personally that you were gonna hold us here. My dignity and my personal safety were completely compromised. For that emotional distress, you're paying up again. Third, I've had to clean up this giant mess of yours, wasting a ton of my time and energy, not to mention throwing off my work schedule. You're paying for my lost time too. With every point I threw at him, his face went a shade paler. By the time I finished the third point, he was as white as a sheet, completely drained of color. I pulled my tablet out of my bag, brought up the legal articles I'd pulled while waiting for the police, and shoved it right under his nose. Read it and weep. Consumer Protection Law, Articles 7 and 10. Consumers have the right to be protected, ensuring their personal property and dignity remain free from harm while receiving services. You guys screwed up. Not only did your restaurant fail to provide basic security, not only did you guys fail to keep this restaurant safe, but after everything went down, you actually teamed up with those scammers to put pressure on me. To put it bluntly, this is a serious dereliction of duty. To put it mildly, you are nothing but an accomplice to a fraudster. Staring at the legal statutes in black and white on the screen, sweat was pouring down his forehead like a broken faucet, just gushing out like water from a tap. He never in a million years imagined that. The guy in front of him, wearing glasses, and looking like a refined young man, not only had a tongue as sharp as a blade, and was ruthless when it came to settling scores, but was actually, damn it, a total legal expert. I decided to strike while the iron was hot. I shifted the tone of the conversation, and went straight for his most painful weak spot, Manager Tsao. I work in venture capital. As soon as those words hit the air, he shuddered violently. When we evaluate projects, we don't just look at the potential profit, we care even more about risk management and brand reputation. That golden reputation you have for such a massive, high-end national restaurant chain, how much do you think that's worth? You know better than anyone. If this whole mess gets exposed all over the internet today, with a scammer carrying out a calculated crime, management failing, and a manager intimidating customers, you want to guess how badly that brand of yours is going to get shattered? How much do you think the headquarters stock price is going to tank? The money lost would be enough to cover how many $60,000 payouts? When this lightning bolt strikes, can you handle the fallout? I intentionally slowed down for that last sentence, maximizing the killing blow. Every single word was like a heavy iron hammer swinging, smashing straight into his heart. Under my systematic, professional, and devastating pressure, his mental defenses completely collapsed. He didn't dare utter another word. Trembling as if he had Parkinson's, he pulled out his phone and frantically started calling for help. Hey, is this Director Chen? The sky is falling. His voice was trembling with such terror he sounded like he was about to wet his pants. Mom and Dad were right there, watching the whole thing unfold. How did I manage to completely overpower him, reducing a manager who acts all high and mighty on his boss's power to a sniveling, beaten dog? The panic in my parents' eyes had long since vanished. All that remained was the pride of parents protecting their child and a look of deep gratification. I knew exactly what was going on in my head. This tough battle for compensation. After I'd spent an hour dragging the other side through the mud, my phone started ringing in my pocket. It was Officer Wang calling. He cut straight to the chase and gave me the lowdown on the interrogation results from the station. That fake uncle, Lu Gang, spilled his guts down to his last pair of underwear. I guessed right. He's just a crafty, seasoned repeat offender. He doesn't even bother to change his name. He stands by who he is. His name really is Lu Gang, a local thug. Never had a real job. A degenerate gambler. He's got over $100,000 in high-interest loans hanging over his head. He's been pulling this long-lost relative stunt for a while now. scrounging free meals and drinks wherever he goes. He's gotten away with it time and time again in the surrounding counties. He's eaten countless dine and dash meals worth hundreds or thousands. Every time his victims realize what's happening, they figure the money isn't worth the trouble. They don't want the hassle of calling the police, or they're too embarrassed to make a scene.